Welcome to The Reins of Leadership, the podcast dedicated to helping you lead with presence and influence with trust. I'm your host, Marinda Smith, business leadership strategist, sharing actionable insights on mindset, EQ and energy uniquely illuminated by wisdom gained alongside my equine partners. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Reins of Leadership podcast. It's great to be here with you again this week. Things have been wonderfully full over here. Lots of coaching calls and working on some new resources for you all, which has really kept me thinking about those nuances of how we show up as leaders day to day. Plus, the ponies are constantly giving me feedback. I've also had some listener feedback this week, and they've offered me some subjects they'd love to hear about, so I'll be going into those as the weeks unfold. And they also gave me some feedback on my editing where I wasn't pausing enough. So that's the way I edit. I actually do pause lots, but for whatever reason I was taking those pauses out. So thank you so much for sharing that feedback, and I'm so grateful to be able to put in place what those suggestions are. So today we're diving into something really special, a topic that comes up time and time again in different forms: how to lead sensitive individuals effectively. And it's often thought about those sensitive ones need softness, but what if true support actually lies in being clearer and having more grounded guidance? And I want to explore this through the lessons that many of my horses have offered to me. And Bundy was the first one who actually showed me the difference between the way that I can lead to get an even better result. So welcome to the Reins of Leadership, where we learn from the wisdom of horses and equines to lead with greater awareness, presence and connection. Finding that powerful balance between empathy and clear direction is today's topic. So just before we meet Bundy, I want to speak directly to those of you who might be feeling or a growing disconnect between your outward achievements and your inner sense of well-being. You're successful, driven, leading the charge, yet so often it feels that something's costing you more than it gives. Are you feeling stretched, overwhelmed, maybe even questioning if this path is truly aligned with who you are right now? If that resonates, I invite you to explore the Leadership Realignment session. This is a dedicated one-on-one coaching experience online designed specifically for high-achieving women like you who are ready to move beyond running the show at the cost of themselves. It's about reclaiming your energy, leading with authentic self-trust, and finding that alignment between success and genuine fulfillment. Stop letting external pressures dictate your internal state. It's time to lead in alignment. You can find the link and learn more about it in the show notes. This is your invitation to realign and lead with renewed energy. Okay, let's talk about Bundy Bear. And as I've shared before, he is incredibly intuitive and highly sensitive. But what I might not have shared with you is that when he first came to me, he was appearing to be obstructive. He was difficult to do anything with. You couldn't control him. And so I realized that what presents as defiance or resistance was actually confusion, overwhelm, and a total mismatch with the communication style. So moving on from a few months of working with him, I was in the yard one day. I was working with him on a long rein. That's a rope that is, I'm on the ground. He's just circling around me with that rope, and we're connected through that rope. And my intention was softness, connection, and responsiveness. That is what I wanted from him. And he started out really connected. We'd done well. He was beautiful. He was alert but calm and moving with that expressive transition between the gaits. He did like to take a look around at first, and so I allowed him that space to take in his surroundings and to just orientate himself to that present moment and what was going on. So once he'd done all of that, I asked for walk, trot, walk, and the contact felt smooth. He was connected to me and what I was requesting of him. And they were simple requests. I wasn't yanking on him or anything. It was done in a soft, calm way. Yet this was at the beginning of my learning journey of how to be a better leader. And at that time, I would often be very quick to demand. And so at this time with Bundy, I was thrilled with how well it was going. And I got excited, maybe too excited, and I lost my own grounding and who I was working with. I asked for canter, and I had a whip in my hand, and I cracked that whip for emphasis, focusing only on that need for the canter, and ignoring him and his sensitivity and our established connection. So what happened was Bundy just shifted, the field shifted, the whole atmosphere shifted, Bundy exploded. Not with power, but with fear. He bolted, he was tense, he was totally disconnected with me. The feedback about my energy, my approach was immediate and visceral. I became acutely aware of my mistake at that point. My excitement, my lack of awareness of the whole picture had ruptured the connection that we had built. I'd completely missed the mark. The cue that I thought was confident and clear landed as way too much for him. It was too fast, it was too forceful, there was a noise that went with it, and it wasn't actually the request for canter that was wrong. It was the delivery. The way that I delivered that message, it was unclear, it was startling, and it was lacking grounded intention. So immediately I stopped and took a breath, as I just have now, because I'm in that moment. I'm reliving it as I'm telling you, and I'm just recentering myself, because which is interesting that I'm doing it now when I'm actually in front of a computer recording this. Yet it's so ingrained in me now. When I see something going off, that's what I do. So in the yard, I found my ground again, and I consciously softened my posture while holding that clear intention. I finally got him back down to a trot and a walk, and I started again. And when I asked for canter, I asked in a way that was quiet, and yet it had that focus clarity. It was a precise energetic cue rather than that loud noise that originally came. And just like that, Bundy responded beautifully. He went into canter calmly, willingly, and just flowed, totally flowed. So that experience just taught me yet another lesson, and this one was about being softer. And now, as I think about that lesson, I see it time and time again in the workplaces, how people are strong in their message and how it's taken in a different way. So let's break down this message into the leadership sense that has been inspired by Bundy Bear. So the first thing that I'd like to draw upon is clarity is kindness, especially for the sensitive ones. And that sharp, unexpected whip crack wasn't just loud, it was unclear in its energy. So that's where the clarity sits, in the energy. Was it anger that I was sharing? Was it impatience? Was it frustration? My own excitement created static, muddying the message. It just totally confused it, and I was unaware until he responded back in the way he did. Humans don't so much though. They often hide. So this ambiguity is deeply unsettling, especially for those sensitive individuals who are trying to read the situation accurately. Now, those humans who are highly attuned often possess a heightened perception, and they notice subtle shifts, inconsistencies, and unspoken nuances that others might miss. This noticing may be unconscious, yet it still happens, so it's a bit like the horses. And yet you, when you're a leader, when you're looking at this person, you're actually not sure because they're hiding it from you. When they're faced with vague instructions or unclear expectations, their perceptive minds don't just register a blank space, they often try to fill it, sometimes anticipating potential problems or interpreting the lack of information negatively. It's not intentional pessimism. It's often an attempt to prepare for all possibilities in that face of uncertainty that they're getting from you as a leader. This constant effort to decipher mixed signals or fill in the blanks is mentally exhausting and fuels stress in them. Let's think about the difference in practice. So, vague expectations sound like, just make this project a priority, or I need you to step up more, or let's aim for better results next quarter. These leave far too much room for interpretation. What does priority mean in relation to other tasks? What specific actions constitute stepping up? And what does better look like in a measurable term? So when you're responding with clarity, you respond in ways that sound like this. This project needs to be your primary focus until the draft is complete by Friday. Pause on work X and Y. Or it could sound like, stepping up in this context means proactively identifying 2 potential improvements in our client onboarding process by our next meeting. Or better results next quarter means increasing qualified leads by 15% and reducing customer churn by 5%. See the difference? The clear examples provide defined parameters, actionable steps, and measurable outcomes. And the emotionally charged communication, even positive excitement, if it's ungrounded or lacks specific context, can be disruptive. Like my uncontrolled excitement with Bundy, leading with that jarring whip crack. When leaders have uncontained enthusiasm, it might feel like pressure. It might mask the unclear expectations, and someone may think, she seems really excited, but I'm not sure exactly what she wants me to do. How many times have you had that happen? I've certainly experienced that. Or it can create a sense of instability. So delivering requests and feedback from a place of calm neutrality, that groundingness, even when the message itself is firm or requires significant action, provides a stable, energetic baseline. It allows the message itself to land without the interference of emotional static. Therefore, being direct, concise, and delivering requests calmly isn't about being cold or robotic. It's about removing unnecessary friction and guesswork. Providing clear expectations and well-defined boundaries are acts of kindness and respect. It's like giving someone a clear map and a compass instead of pointing vaguely towards a distant patch of trees. It honours their need for structure. It allows them to reduce the cognitive load of constant interpretation, and it also builds psychological safety. So when people know precisely what's expected, they will build that trust and it will free them up from the anxiety of the unknown. So just as Bundy needed that clear, calm cue, your sensitive team members also need you to provide the clarity that respects their nature and empowers them to succeed. So the second point that Bundy Bear shared and got me thinking was that leading from grounded intention. You know, having that firmness and force is often, considered to be the same thing. But the whip crack itself was a force. However, the second request was firm. I held clear expectations of a canter being delivered. I was quietly confident and I was centered. And it came and it landed and he responded in the way that he was supposed to. As opposed to the force that can be pushing or overriding or intimidating. In leadership, you hear this is just get it done, or frustration. Why aren't they getting this? Or anxiety, we're falling behind. Or even ego, my way is right and I'm not bending. So force done badly shrinks that culture, creates anxiety, and will get that sensitive soul into a stress situation. So grounded firmness respects the trust of people. It gets them, they have been told where they need to go. It's a workplace. They need to have those directions, and yet they know that you are grounded, and they build that trust, and they trust that you will allow them to get the job done in a way that is right for them. So let's look back at that leadership and wrap up what I've been sharing with you. And the first step is to reflect on how you are before you take action, and get curious with yourself, and not furious. Don't be judgmental on yourself. Just ask yourself, what is actually triggering me? What behaviours am I seeing that are problematic? So not in you, in that other person. Is this pattern a one-off? And have expectations being clearly communicated? Because what you initially see, just like Bundy Bear, may not be obstinance and being obstructive. It may be actually confusion, overwhelm, or it could be anxiety. And then you need to reset the conversation. So take that deep breath, ground yourself. And with a human, you're wanting to have a calm, private, respectful, one-on-one conversation. So the goal is that clarity. It's not about control. It's about being really clear on what you've noticed and what you would like them to do. And then try and uncover the root causes if you can, if that's not too hard in the conversation. Yet by having that clarity of conversation, you're going to build that psychological safety, and you're going to set boundaries because you're being clear and firm in your boundaries. And you then, with the human, you revisit the role expectations and the standards, just like I do with the horses. So in that example of Bundy in the yard, I was moving him up from walk to trot, back down to walk, and then up to canter. And we were just checking in. I was checking in with him and his responses. So you're wanting to do that with the human as well, with your team. Ask for mutual agreements. With the horse, it's about that connection, that softness, that lightness. With the human, it's about can we agree on that going forward, and then have those regular check-ins, as I said, without micromanaging. It's about allowing them to do the task that you've asked them to do without micromanaging, and yet staying connected and building that psychological safety in the team so everyone feels that you're not going to explode at any moment in whatever way that shows up for you. It doesn't have to be an anger explosion. It could be an overexcitement or feeling rushed or emotionally charged. So here's a practice for you to try this week. Next time you need to give some direction, set a boundary or offer feedback, especially if you anticipate potential sensitivity or resistance from the person you're giving it to, then take one conscious breath before you speak. Use that breath to check in with yourself. Am I feeling grounded and clear right now? Or am I feeling rushed, frustrated, reactive, or emotionally charged? Aim to communicate from that centered, clear space, even if the message itself is firm. Notice the difference it makes in your delivery and potentially in the reception. If exploring how to lead from this place of grounded clarity and authentic presence resonates with you, especially if you're feeling that pull between high achievement and personal well-being, I warmly encourage you to explore the Leadership Realignment session. It's designed to help you find and embody your most effective aligned leadership style, and you'll find more in the show notes. Thank you for joining me on The Reins of Leadership. If you find value in these equine-inspired insights, please hit subscribe so your platform knows that you want to listen to it and that you don't miss a future episode. So we'd love for you to join the conversation. Find us on Instagram at I am Marinda Smith. I look forward to speaking to you. Thanks for joining me on The Reins of Leadership. Remember to lead with presence and influence with trust. Subscribe for more insights and find resources at mirindasmith.podia.com.